on opening the sutra, the Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Friday afternoon of this November session in a day of many weathers. Interpret that however you want. The taste of the rain on the crispy leaves this morning was delicious. And the thick gray November sky. And then when we came into the Zendo for this last period of Zazen, I was a little late. So when I came in, it felt like kind of coming into an aquarium with the sun was kind of shining through the windows and all the little fish were settled. No floaters. I don't think there were any floaters. And this is our last session of Fall Ango. So we're sitting with Shuso Kosho. Some of us have had the chance to practice Kitchen Zen with our Shuso this session, which couldn't be really any more appropriate. I came in the kitchen this morning and there was a group of bodhisattvas peeling potatoes. And I don't know if the Shuso is just that in tune with the Roshi. But the poem that Doan Roshi's been teaching out of on Wednesday and Thursday. Such a beautiful poem. I have no doubt that many of us are sitting with it this session. And even just the first line, while all the others were away at Mass, I was all hers as we peeled potatoes. I just love the simplicity of that line, that everyday activity, also with sort of what feels like kind of a secret ritual that nobody else is a part of. Think about those tender times in our families and with our friends that are just so deeply intimate and so incredibly simple. I remember peeling potatoes with my grandma. She had 5 kids in the 50s, so she knew her way around the potato. And it was that seamless activity. She would just potato after potato, and I'd be trying not to slice off my thumb. And she wasn't always known for her gentleness. But the way she handled those potatoes with her, somehow soft hands together, just that simplicity is just so perfect. And so I hope we're all appreciating the simple. I know we're in a lot of chaos, But this time of year is actually really simple. It's beautiful. The leaves are gracefully and sometimes blusterly letting go. We haven't had to deal with the holidays yet, really, right? That's all still far away. Thanksgiving, far, far away. And it's nice to appreciate those moments in the midst of all the other things that are happening. Because they are happening, for sure. Our theme is Lotus in the Fire. I assume nothing's changed and we're all still sitting as the lotus in the fire on our cushions and in our lives. So maybe a few flare-ups. Practicing together at session this way, though, really feeling the love between all these noble friends together. And I was really having a sense of what Roshi was saying last night about how we are leaping off this cliff into vow, right? Whatever that means at any point, we're all practicing the Bodhisattva vow together. Whether you've taken any formal vows here or not, the Bodhisattva vow holds us all in our practice. So in the midst of that fire, what is that leaping off the cliff? That's what we're here to do. So all along ago, we have been talking about practicing as the lotus in the fire. And I was thinking about how sesshin itself, like this container that we're making together and being in, the whole sesshin itself is like a lotus in the fire of the whole world. And I think about how Rinsen's been telling us, like, this is literally one of the most radical things you can do when things feel this chaotic, is to just sit down, be quiet, and sit still, and actually work on ourselves and our own awakening for the sake of all beings. Like sesshin, we have custody, right, of our eyes, and custody of our hands, and custody of our mouth. And can you just imagine if the world would all do that for 5 minutes a day? I mean, I want to have a realistic wish here. 5 minutes. What a world that would be. But not really so. So we're practicing in this crazy time, with our crazy lives, with this relentless change in our relationships, with death, with birth, separation and uncertainty. And I feel like I've had a lot of conversations with Sangha members and friends and family where we end up saying to each other, oh, that's so hard. Because, like, it really is. That's so hard. And I've been saying it to myself even, oh man, this is really hard. And so it brings up that question, right, about our practice and our lives. Is it easy? Is it hard? Is it difficult? How do we practice when times are hard? I hear that question a lot. How do I practice with this? How do I practice with that? And, well, here's a really big hint. You just practice, right? Practice when it's hard. Practice when it feels easy. Not letting those factors decide what your practice is. Practice as the difficulty, as the ease. And then, really thinking about what's beyond that. What's beyond, is this easy? Is this difficult? Even in one period of Zazen, is this period of Zazen easy? Is this period of Zazen hard? Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a bad job? I mean, let's just drop that and sit with exactly what it is. We can spend so much time and energy analyzing, is it easy, is it hard? So when I think about that question, I think about one of the stories, the Layman Pong stories. we had 2 Ongo texts. We gave out 2 Ongo texts this Ongo, and we really focused on the Vimalakirti. But I know that many of you are also reading the sayings of Layman Pong. And there is a story in there. If you haven't looked at both of the books, they're similar and different, right? They're both fully realized lay practitioners. So they're not ordained. The Layman Pong book, The Stories of Layman Pong, is quite a bit more folksy and organic. Sort of day-to-day kinds of activities are a lot of the foundation of the stories. Cooking food, weaving baskets, going to the market, these kinds of things. And Layman Pong, he has a family, and I think he had a job for a while, and then he kind of takes up, I think, Zen practice pretty full-time. But he has a family, he has a wife, and he has kids. And he's fully, he's a Zen master. He's fully awakened and practicing in his very real life with a family and in the world. And then one of my favorite things about the Pong family really is that in a lot of the stories, it's the daughter who comes up with the key insight, right? So, well, I just like that. I don't have to justify it. So, story 51 out of the book that some of us are looking at, the Zango, kind of just on the side. Story 51 is 3 views of hard and easy. One day, while the Layman Pong, was meditating in his sitting hut, he suddenly cried out, "It's hard, 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 and I've put 10 coats of linseed oil on this platform too." So I'm just like, is that relatable? Has anybody felt like shouting that out in the Zendo? Maybe they have in their head, I hope. Or maybe out loud, I don't know. But I know that feeling of just staying with this. This thing that's arising is so hard. It doesn't really matter how many coats of linseed oil are on the platform. I don't even know what that really means, but the point is he's sitting with whatever it is, and it's hard. And then his wife says, "It's easy, easy, easy. Just turn your eyes to the floor, lower your feet to it, and be on your way." And that's true too, right? It is that easy. Lower your eyes to the floor, lower your feet, and be on your way. Sometimes it really does feel that easy. And then the daughter, the hero of our story here, says, "It's neither hard nor easy. The mind of the patriarchs is in every blade of grass." So each of these things are true. It is difficult, it is easy. It is neither easy nor difficult. But it's that last one that you can taste the liberation, right? It's neither easy nor difficult. And we don't always feel that. But how do we practice with it? How do we practice with whatever circumstance it is, whatever situation, whatever story, whatever it is? And the details don't really matter because the practice is the same. And finding that place of beyond easy and difficult is really the key. So, all right, I'm gonna tell you about this experience I just had recently where I really got caught into is this easy or difficult, and dragged a lot of you with me. So we shaved off our hair recently, shaved the heads, Reverend Jukai and Reverend Soand and I. And I know many of you went through that journey with me in the weeks before. I think it was on Thursday or Friday last week, Thursday, I think, that meme popped into my head where it says, everyone's fighting a battle you don't know about. Do you know this? Except me. I'm complaining loudly. Everybody knows about my battle. And I feel okay saying that in a Dharma talk because I saw it on James Ford's Facebook page for the first time. So I think everybody knew about my battle with the head shaving. And I wasn't complaining, and I want to be really clear, I have no regrets. The gratitude and the beauty of the day and the ceremony and the opportunity to express the vocation is beyond words. But the hair shaving was not beyond words for me. And I said a lot of words about it. And it was a very vulnerable experience, sitting there knowing full well that all of my emotions were on display, the flinching, the internal struggle, appropriate. And I didn't feel too gracious about it at first. It was uncomfortable. And then, there's a point where you kind of stop fighting, right? You kind of let go of that. Is this easy? Why is this easy for other people? My other ordinands don't seem to be struggling in this way. Like, why is this so difficult for me? Why is it about me, right? Why is this unique thing? It's nonsense. And, I could go into analyzing what it was really all about. And again, the details don't matter. The practice was the same. Staying with it, not avoiding it. When it came up to me that, oh my gosh, it's actually about my hair, and I love my hair. I think it's very pretty. Like, accepting that, right? Like, just, that's what's actually coming up, and not ignoring that. And then when you finally, you stay with it enough, and you remember what you've actually experienced directly and in your practice, and you start to feel that space that's beyond easy and difficult, and you just relax into that warm-hearted spaciousness, as Roshi describes it so beautifully. And when you get into that space and you actually start to feel the joy that's always there, right? The joy that's never known suffering. That's why we're here. That's what we're doing for the sake of all beings. And it's okay that we forget. And we need to be reminded, and we have each other, and we have our teachers, and we have the lineage, and we have all these forms, session and ceremony and formal practice. We have all these things set up to remind us, because we will forget. We're all humans, and we forget things. I just had occasion to formally be reminded that even the ancestors in our lineage will forget from time to time, and be reminded. And that's okay. We just come back to ourselves every time, over and over and over again. So I have another example of this I want to talk about. Not a few weeks ago, I think it was, I gave a talk out of the Vimalakirti, chapter 10, the feast brought by the emanated incarnation. This is the part of the sutra where, Shariputra, he's concerned about the lunch, and Vimalakirti is going to take care of him and all his friends and get him some takeout, some nourishing, amazing takeout from another Buddha field, which is not where we are in Shakyamuni's Buddha field. And the one that he wants to get the takeout from, the food from this other Buddha field, is one composed of fragrances, just the beauty of fragrance. And this is, you remember the story where in this realm, in this universe, the bodhisattvas just bring the beings to under a beautiful tree, and they inhale the wonderful fragrance, and they come to full and complete awakening. And I think sometimes when we're sitting in the fire, that sounds like a really easy option, and why can't we have that option? And who's, and actually we do. But so a few weeks ago when I was talking about this, I was thinking about it from a really easy versus difficult place, right? The ease of inhaling the fragrance and coming to enlightenment, and the difficulty of sitting as a lotus in the fire. And then a few days after I gave that talk, Doan Roshi gave a Wednesday night talk from chapter 7 of the sutra, the goddess chapter that she has been working and teaching us through this whole Ango. And it was a Jodo-style talk, which is the kind where you sit in your zazen and the words come and flow through you. And so I don't exactly remember what she said, but I could look on YouTube and find it. And you should too if you didn't hear the talk. But what I remember experiencing was, oh goodness, I just gave this talk where I was really talking about this very, this easy way or this difficult way, like they were two separate things, like they weren't entirely the same thing. So beyond easy and difficult. And so there's a part of the sutra that I want to look at again today. But first I want to talk about a little science, because I think science, thank you, yes, science and the Dharma play really well together. And I had an opportunity to hear Rinzin Roshi talking about the sense of smell yesterday, and specifically about how that sense of smell that we have, that humans have, it's such a primitive, it's one of our primitive senses, right? It evolved very early on from the chordates in the water, like the pre-backbone little creatures, so they could smell nutrients in the watering and get to that. So it goes way, way, way back to like guys who don't even have a spine, little guys. And it's the same exact sense, right? So it's our most primitive sense, really, that we have. And I think I've also heard that it's one of the last sense to dissipate when someone is dying. So there's something very mysterious about smell in a way. And our sense of smell is wired very deeply into our brains. I think probably everybody's had that experience of unexpectedly smelling something and then just instantly being transported to some time or space or person. And maybe you don't even exactly know why, and then you're like, oh my God, it's the cinnamon, or for me, it's the Purell soap. Like that just will put me right back in the hospital in my mind. So we all have this direct experience of knowing this primitive functioning of our sense of smell. And it's very quick. That's the other thing about it. It's very, very quick that we react. So, technically we're not very good at smell, like compared to other animals. I think this is fascinating, but like dogs, they can keep track of time based on the breaking down of the smell that's left in the room. If they know your smell and they know you're gone for 8 hours, they can break that down. And, our other primates, they can make a map in their mind based on smells where things are. And I'm sure that, we used to be able to do that too, and maybe still could if we were in the situation. But it's kind of hard to imagine because, I don't know, sometimes I can't even tell if something's burning in the oven. And I know where the oven is. But we, as humans, we stand upright and we're tall and we have to be able to see and hear. And so most of our brain goes to processing seeing and hearing, not smelling. So we have like a third of the genes of the other mammals for smelling. That's interesting, right? But the sense of our smell is actually one of the things that makes us feel centered in our world. So it's really important. It's one of our sense gates, and it's one of our orienting factors. And then we have to think about how that just triggers our memories so fast, our smell. How, there's ways that we probably don't even detect, that we sense danger with our sense of smell, predators and prey, and food and not food. It's really interesting, especially when you think about this section of the sutra where they're talking about coming to awakening through your sense of smell, right? And we have many opportunities for that actually in the temple. We have the smell of the incense regularly. We have the smell of the kitchen, food cooking. Doan Roshi is always bringing us the teachings of fragrance and beauty. All opportunities for awakening, right? All these sense gates can be fuel for our awakening, and they can also be fuel for our ego, depending on what we do with them. I like this one and I don't like that one. This is pleasant, this is not pleasant. And we're also deeply wired for that. That's like one of the functions of the sense of smell is, oh, stay away from that, that's not safe. And it's deep, deep biology. It's it's nerve impulses, they're lightning fast. And so, it does take us some effort to use those sense gates, to train ourselves to use the sense gates for awakening and for, not for feeding our ego. Rinzin Roshi's been discoursing on the Lankavatara for a year and some months now, maybe a year and a half. And of course, he's been teaching us so much out of that sutra, and one of those things is that with all of our senses, there's the sense organ and the object of perception, and then the sense consciousness for that. So that exists for smell, of course. We have our nose, and we have the things we smell, and then we have our consciousness, what it does with that. And, oh right, a side note, we will be having, in my own language, in my mind, I'm calling it Lankapalooza. At Rahatsu, we're going to have a series of Lankavatara discourses and try to, we'll be streaming those so that everybody can listen, not just the Shokan people, but that's the first week of December. So a side note of something to be excited about. But what I'm getting to with this is that there's awakened and unawakened versions of these sense gates. And they don't go away, but we see things differently, we feel things differently, we hear them differently, and maybe we even smell them differently. And so there's kind of endless opportunities for that. Okay, so looking at this text, which is again in the chapter about fragrance. Don't you love it when your Ango book gets like a little wear and tear? You get the highlighting and stuff, and the back starts to break down a little. All right, here we are. And remember, this is after Vimalakirti has asked who would like to go to this other Buddha realm. He's shown them the Buddha realm, and he's asked who would like to go and check on the Tathagata there and also bring us back some of their fragrance food, and nobody will go. So Vimalakirti, he makes his own bodhisattva emanation and sends that emanation to this other realm. Then the Tathagata, Sugandha Kuta, poured some of his food, impregnated with all perfumes, into a fragrant vessel and gave it to the incarnation bodhisattva. And the 90 million bodhisattvas of that universe volunteered to go along with him, saying, Lord, we also would like to go to that universe Saha, where we are, to see, honor, and serve the Buddha Shakyamuni, and to see Vimalakirti and those bodhisattvas. The Tathagata declared, Noble sons, go ahead if you think it is the right time, but lest those living beings become mad and intoxicated, go without your perfumes. And lest those living beings of the Saha world become jealous of you, change your bodies to hide your beauty. And I think that's really important because we hear a lot about how the Bodhisattva will arise in whatever form is useful. And so this is directions from their Tathagata to show up in a form that's going to be useful for these beings in our Saha universe that we live in. And then he goes on to say, the Tathagata goes on to say, and do not conceive ideas of contempt and aversion for that universe. Oh, and that's just really key to showing up in a form that people can, that you can be helpful in, right? That we can be helpful. We cannot conceive ideas of contempt and aversion for that universe. Why? Noble sons, a Buddha field is a field of pure space, but the Lord Buddhas, in order to develop living beings, do not reveal all at once the pure realm of the Buddha. And we're all working on this. Then the incarnation Bodhisattva took the food and departed with the 90 million Bodhisattvas, and by the power of Buddha and the supernatural operation of Vimalakirti, disappeared from that universe and again stood in the house of Vimalakirti in a fraction of a second. Vimalakirti created 90 million lion thrones, just like those already there, and the Bodhisattvas were seated. So Shariputra has chairs and lunch taken care of now. Then the incarnation Bodhisattva gave the vessel full of food to Vimalakirti, and the fragrance of the food permeated the entire great city of Vasali, and its sweet perfume spread throughout 100 universes. All were amazed and filled with wonder. They were so cleansed in body and mind that they came at once to the house of Vimalakirti, along with all 84,000 beings. And so this is all beings. This fragrance that we're talking about, this food, this fragrance, this nourishment, nourishes all beings. Seeing there were the Bodhisattvas seated on the high, wide, and beautiful lion thrones, they were filled with admiration and great joy. They all bowed down to those great disciples and Bodhisattvas, and then sat down to one side, and the gods of the earth, the gods of the desire world, and the gods of the material world, attracted by the perfume, also came to the house of Vimalakirti. Then Vimalakirti spoke to the elder Shariputra and the great disciples, "Reverends, eat of the food of the Tathagata. It is ambrosia perfumed by the great compassion. It is ambrosia perfumed by the great compassion, but do not fix your minds on narrow-minded attitudes, lest you are unable to receive its gift." And how often does that happen to us? A narrow-minded attitude, unable to receive the gift of this moment. Thinking of it as easy or difficult, analyzing it, and missing the gift. But some of the disciples had already had the thought, how can such a huge multitude eat such a small amount of food? The incarnation Bodhisattva said to those disciples, "Do not compare, venerable ones, your own wisdom and merits with the wisdom and the merits of the Tathagata. For example, the 4 great oceans might dry up, but this food would never be exhausted. Why? Issued from inexhaustible morality, concentration, and wisdom, the remains of the food of the Tathagata contained in this vessel cannot be exhausted." And that's the thing, right? Even if we miss the gift, this beyond easy and difficult can never be exhausted. It's still right there. Missing the gift is it too. we just know so deeply. We know so deeply the karmic habit energy of holding on to this is easy, this is difficult. I want the easy, I don't want the difficult. And we also know so deeply, we know so deeply that we can trust ourselves, we can trust this process. And that when we're on our cushions and we feel like the fire is burning out of control, this idea of a tree of awakening or something similar can sound like an easy escape. And there's a way that that tree and the fire are just right there at the same time. And when we can relax and let the fire be fire and see what's underneath all of that. So the question of easy or difficult, and what is beyond easy or difficult, how do we get there? Like, even when it's right here, it can feel so far away, so difficult, if you will. So we come to sesshin, we practice together, we trust ourselves, and we practice with whatever is arising. Sometimes when things are going along quite smoothly, it's easy to just enjoy so much, and maybe for some of us it's harder to practice than during those times. And for others of us, when things get very busy and the waters are choppier, it feels hard to practice because we feel like we need to deal with these things. But really, the whole point of practicing is that we actually practice with exactly what it is. And so if we choose to only practice when things are smooth, or we choose to only practice when they're difficult, we're just training ourselves that way. What we really want to be training in is seeing what's underneath all these circumstances and seeing how those details of the circumstances just come and go, but really feeling what doesn't come and go, what doesn't change, what's beyond easy and difficult. And so we do this at sesshin. And here's a sesshin hack. All you really have to do is show up honestly and earnestly. It's kind of that simple. Show up honestly and earnestly. And when you're on your cushion, show up honestly with yourself. It's all there is. And when we're doing our sitting Zen, walking Zen, Oryoki Zen, kitchen Zen, brushing the teeth Zen, rest practice Zen, engaging it all earnestly and wholeheartedly, difficult or easy or beyond difficult or easy, just staying with it, honestly. Because we've gone way out of our way to be here. We've gone way out of our way to create this space. Our teachers have gone way, way, way out of their way for this to be here. And it is a gift. We've given ourselves this gift. The lineage has given us this gift. We don't want to miss that. And we don't want to stop there either. We need to take what we practice into our lives, into Thanksgiving in a few weeks, into our families. Doan Roshi says that we should let the practice carry us. We don't need to carry the practice. We should enjoy our practice. Easy, difficult, or beyond easy and difficult, still enjoying it. You see the difference, right? Carrying your practice or having your practice carry you. But the thing is that it still takes discipline, right? We still have to show up and sit down and be quiet. Rinzai Roshi said to me the other day, a quote from Kodo Sawaki, "A zendo is not a hospital for your petty problems. Stop whining and sit." Should I say more words or just not just say it all? I feel like it says it all. Another way to say it is, stop flapping and glide like the albatross that you are. And I think the albatross should be our official mascot for Fall Ango 2025. The Zendo's not a hospital for your petty problems. Stop whining and sit earnestly, and sit with what it really is, and come back and do it again and again and again, because we forget and we have to be reminded. Dedicate the merit of this Dharma talk, especially to those who are very caught in the difficult, to those who do not have the privilege, and it is a privilege, of examining what is beyond easy and difficult, to those whose circumstances are beyond their control and who do not have access to the Dharma at this time. May our merit go to them and to all beings throughout space and time for full and complete Buddhahood in this lifetime. May we take them there, every single one without exception. May it be so.